Yo, what up? What's going on, everybody? It's Between the Game Sports. We're back. Got a very, very special guest in the head coach of the Prairie View A&M Panthers volleyball team, Coach Tacho Tyler. What's going on, Coach?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good, man. We've been trying to kind of get this rolling for a few months, and then me just being my mind going blank sometimes. So hit you on yesterday. You said the season get ready to start. Cliff is already in the building.
What up, Cliff?
Man, you supposed to be at work, but
I know. You know, in the parking lot.
We appreciate you dropping through. So let's get right into it for folks who don't know who you are and, you know, what you do, where you're from, and all those things. So go ahead and jump right into it.
All right. I'm Tacho. I am the head coach at Prairie View A&M. I am a PV alum. I graduated in 2007. I played volleyball there. Prior to that, I played for San Jack, go Ravens, at a junior college down the street from where I'm from, which is Pasadena, South Houston area. That's the majority where I grew up. And I went to South Houston High School, and I played all sports. But my volleyball coach, Coach Garza, told me that volleyball would take me further than all of the other sports I was equally as good at. And at the time, club volleyball wasn't like a super huge thing. And so she was right. Volleyball took me a lot further than everything else. So I'm super appreciative of that. As soon as I graduated, honestly, in 2007, I became an assistant coach at PD and started working for my own coach. And I did that for 6 years. And then when she retired, I became the head coach and took over the helm. And then I've been steering the boat ever since. So yeah, that's a wrap up.
Yeah. So you've been out there in PV for a minute, just kind of living the life. There are some folks on here. I have a lot of Jackson State fans, so they might know about PV.
They know.
They might know a little bit. You know, they don't want to give y'all credit, but it is what it is. And you've done a tremendous job since you've been there. And you spoke about club volleyball just now. When you're going to these tournaments, or you know, you're out recruiting. You know, we talked kind of previously before about how much you put into your recruiting season this year. Yeah. You're going out, and I do this for a lot of parents. A lot of parents don't really know. But when you're going out and you're at these all-day events, what are you looking for from the athletes from the time they, you know, you might be in the parking lot, you might see an athlete getting out the car, from the time they get out the car, walk in the gym, to their preparation, to the game, to how they're listening to their coaches. So for folks who don't understand how you work as a recruiter, kind of explain that to them.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, a lot of those club tournaments are so huge. I mean, it's crazy the amount of volleyball in one gym at one time. So particularly when I'm walking in, I usually have a list of kids that have reached out, or I've reached out, or I know specifically where they're going to play, what time they're going to play. And so whatever they sent me in film got me to come watch them play live. Mm-hmm. So for those particular kids, I'm looking at everything. Sometimes I sit like right in the front. Other times I'm sitting kind of back where they don't even know I'm there. So I'm watching how they warm up. I'm watching if they're just chit-chatting during warm up, or they really getting after it, trying to get warm. I look at the kind of mechanics of everything. So how you fit in my program, because a lot of times people think it's about the team, and it's not about their team that they're on. It's about them individually and how I see them fit in my program. And so I'm looking at, you know, if you're like an outsider, something like that, I'm looking at your vertical jump. I'm looking at how you can score. I'm looking at how you look after a mistake. If you get pulled, I'm looking at if you're listening to the coach. Look, I'm listening for the corrections. I'm looking at, are you on the bench pouting because you're out, or are you into the game, right? And if, are you about your teammates now and the team? Because at the end of the day, somebody's coming in because you're making too many mistakes. So instead of pouting, you should be thankful, and you should be the loudest one on the bench. I'm also looking at your parents, to be honest. I'm looking at if they're talking to the refs crazy, if they're talking to the line judges crazy, who often the line judges are in school themselves. And so I'm looking at a whole lot of things, and the intangibles really, really matter, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of great athletes out there, right? But how do you fit in my gym? Am I going to want to coach that kid? Can I coach that kid to be a player for me and to be on the collegiate level, right? Because when everybody steps in the gym, everybody was good where they were from. This is why you're now in a collegiate gym. And so now it's about, can I take them to the next level and become who I need them to be for us, And so maybe in high school, they were taking 50 swings a game. Maybe I only need them to take 10, right? So it's stuff like that that we look for. But we do, parents sometimes can knock. I'm not going to lie. And sometimes the kid themselves can knock themselves off the list. Like if their mom came up and just handed them water bottle and they're mad, so they throwing it, talking to them crazy and stuff like that. I've seen parents like berate their kids after a game, and I'm like, oh no, like we don't need any of that, right?
Yeah. A lot of parents never understand that. And I've been doing AAU for a long time on the basketball scene. A lot of parents don't understand they are a hindrance a lot of times to their kids recruiting, and they just don't get it, man. Like as far as just being too loud or saying things you just said, by rating their kids and things of that nature, pulling them to the sideline. That's my biggest pet peeve.
That infuriates me, because what are you doing? Why are you paying all this money for you to coach them up?
I really don't get it, man. Sit back and be a parent. Just support, man. And shout out to Coach Reese, man. This woman I work with. She played volleyball at PV. Hey. Coach Reese, she was probably just at y'all alumni weekend that y'all just had. And so I can't remember what year that they won it. So
92, that's probably 92 team. Yeah.
So she's always gonna show support. So shout out to her, and Cliff with the super chat, man. We're gonna bring you in.
How terrible my games were. No, I'm just that motivated me to be better. No, but no, I think parents, like, they have to understand that, like, and I don't know how AAU is, if it's like club, in a sense where the parent complains enough, their kid can play, or if they're giving enough money, their kid can play and stuff like that. So what I try to, when I go to different recruiting events and stuff like that, and I'm having recruiting talks, I always talk to the parents and I say, when you get to college, you cannot do that. You cannot make moves happen by complaining about your kids' playing time. Because I kind of akin it to, if you're working at your job and your boss is on you about doing a not great job, can your kid come and call your boss? They can't do that. So it's the same here. And a lot of times it's the athlete's fault too, because they tell their parents half truths and whole lies, right? They're, well, oh, why are you not playing? Or why are you not this? And then they're lying, oh, the coach doesn't like me, or, oh, she's bullying me, just all this stuff. And it's like, no, if your parent knew that you were lazy, if your parent knew that you didn't come with the work ethic and the 100% that you needed to, or that you're just a terrible teammate, right? Because there's going to be people better than you. I can only play so many people. And if you can't buy into what your role is, that's when kind of like these issues start. And so I try to tell parents, like, you can't, unless I'm literally doing something to your child, physically, mentally abusive, there's not anything that you can do about whether or not they can play. So I try to tell them that on the recruiting visit, but it don't always work.
Yeah, I want to come back to that eventually, but you just said something very, very important about, basically knowing your role, man. Shout out to The Rock in our era. Know your role, shut your mouth, all this other stuff. Know your role. And I just saw a video about Draymond Green, and he's basically at open gym at the Rico Hines thing that goes on in California. And he basically was telling people, dudes who are trying to get in the NBA, who has aspirations, or guys that are in the NBA, and he's speaking from a 4-time championship mentality or perspective. and he's basically saying that everybody on the team has a role except for two dudes. Man, I don't know how that really translates to volleyball, but knowing that you have to have a role is what is going to get you playing time. And I don't think parents understand it. I don't think a lot of freshmen really understand it. But again, like you said, coming in, everybody that's on the collegiate level, whether it be D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, all these people were somebody at their high school, somebody in their city, somebody in their state, certain situations. So you have to, kind of buy into what's happening and what's going on really, really quickly at the collegiate level. And I don't think parents really, really understand that.
I agree. And I think even as much as coaches may say it, I think there's a lot of resistance. And I think part of that is that it's a kind of a mental blow for them, like, what? I'm not the all-star. I'm not, I'm not getting this coaching as fast as I normally get coaching. And I try to tell them that a lot of times, unless you have like a really good high school or a really good club coach that breaks things down. Cause I think a lot of times in club, they just play. And you're not actually raising your volleyball IQ. Your skill set is actually not that good. You've just been able to just kind of play and score and do all these things. But on the collegiate level, everybody's hip to that. And so we're trying to mold you. And I think there's that resistance because it's like, man, I'm not catching on as fast. Man, I'm not getting set as many balls as I would normally get set. Or maybe I'm riding the bench, right? Yeah. And it's kind of a blow to their mental. And so a lot of times it's really us coaching that. Right. And just saying like, there's going to be this curve. Like for some people, there is a learning curve and that's okay. But you have to embrace that. But now kind of with the transfer portal and stuff like that, it's like, well, I don't got to embrace nothing. I can just hop and go somewhere else. And hopefully I can just, make my way there without working as hard as I really honestly need to work.
Yeah, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. And let's get to some of these comments. Tim Smith.
Oh, am I? Oh, you know what?
Can you see it?
Yes, now I can. I was
okay. There you go. So
okay.
Tim Smith said, "Let's go, bestie." So he's in the building. Appreciate you dropping through. And
Hey,
this is a great question. My dude, 100-yard alchemist. He says, "How was it playing against Coach Washington at JSU?" So you can school me on this a little bit
as a player, because she's been there for a minute. You got to expound on that. No, I can talk about both. So, Coach Washington was actually coaching when I was a player. And so fortunately, when I was a player, we got to eliminate them each time. So that was great. As a coach, there's been a couple of times where we've won. I know one year when we went to the game right before the championship, we had to actually eliminate them and they were at the top of the conference. But lately, they've put a really, really good squad together. I actually thought they were going to win last year. But they're doing good things there. She has a great assistant coach, Marcus, who is a great recruiter too. And so she's really built the program over the years. And so we always know that when we play Jackson, it's going to be a battle every single time. But they come with it for real.
I know. I'm looking at some of these preseason selections, man. They have 4 or 5 preseason selections, which is, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they were really beating everybody last year, really. And then in the tournament, FAMU just was on a wild ride and ended up, stealing the crown first year in the Swac. But they're returning quite a bit of people. So I feel like a lot of the Swac schools that are at the top last year will still be there. But I know us, like we rebuilt in a good way. And so we've been like quietly working. And then I know like there's some other schools that are really going to shock people with the product that they're putting on the floor. So it should be exciting here in the Swac.
Yeah, it's nothing like getting to the conference tournament, man. Anything can happen any given moment.
Literally.
And I want to ask this now. Where do y'all like have a host site for a conference championship, or does like the number 1 seed kind of have that?
No. So with volleyball, we do where it just rotates every year. And so like this year, Texas Southern is hosting just because it's their time to host. It used to be where a team could host for 2 years on the East, and then another school would host 2 years on the East, and then it would move back to the West with the same. But we voted a few years ago that it just needs to be 1 year because the last time we hosted was 2006, and then we won't host again until next year. So imagine that amount of time before it comes back, to your campus. And then, of course, we had to work FAMU and Bethune in that rotation as well. So this year, it'll actually be at Texas Southern. And then next year, it'll be at PV. finally.
Okay. Gotcha. So that is a very, very huge gap, man. That's crazy. And I was on Cliff's channel probably about a week ago, and they were talking about the long bus trips, man. And so hopefully
Oh,
y'all can kind of get rid of that and get more sponsors and get more, people behind this HBCU movement, that y'all don't have to get on a bus, y'all can get on a plane. Hoping that for you guys. And Coach Reese, she's back. She says, how was the alumni game this year with the first SWAC champions returning to play?
The alumni game was really fun. We had a really good turnout. We were doing it before COVID for a couple of years, and it got big then. And then we stopped for COVID. But this year we had literally alumni all the way from the very first team created by Coach Chapman in the 80s, all the way up
Wow.
into my athletes who had just graduated. And so it was wonderful to see all of these women that have came through the program coming back. So many gave to our program that day. And so it was a beautiful thing to see, and so that we can keep it going. And then we're also honoring the 92 team this year when we play Texas Southern in September, because it's been 30 years since their championship. And so I'm excited to honor them as a head coach. But it was great meeting some of them, because I started a group chat. And so it was great meeting some of them in person. And I can't wait till they're on campus and see, basically where their championship has led us. So it was great.
There you go. Dang, a 30 piece, man.
30. Can you believe
30
that?
piece. Good Lord.
Yeah. And they beat Texas Southern, so that's why they're like, oh yeah, definitely.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Cliff says, good old Alabama trip. Yeah. Matt.
Oh, those used to be done in vans, right? So we upgraded to charter buses, and every now and then for volleyball we get to fly there. But basketball and football, they definitely not taking buses.
No, you can't do that with the 53-man roster or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Plus coaches, plus equipment, plus all this other stuff. And so you've built this program, you've done great things there. I want to speak about your camp. All right, I'm pretty sure camp is pretty important to you because it just kind of you can give back to these young kids, these young Black women who might not know much about volleyball, might be interested, but might not have the resources to get to it. So the camp that you did this summer, let's speak about that, how important it is to you. What was the turnout like? What are you looking forward to in the future with that?
Oh man, camp, that was actually kind of emotional, to be honest, because as long as I can remember, the only time that I feel like we posted a camp is when I did like a third party camp on campus, or when Coach Pete had them, she would do them in Houston because she felt like not enough people would come down to Prairie View. And so I had been speaking about camp, and that's something that I really want to do. And then COVID happened. And so we didn't do it for like 2 years. And I said, okay, this year we're going to do it. We're going to make sure it's ran in the most professional way. It's going to be on time. And we're going to make people feel like when we go to Prairie View camp, we're getting what we want out of it. And so I said, I'm going to do a middle school camp, and I'm going to do an all skills camp. The middle school camp, I capped at 20 because I like to really pour into the younger group, and I want them to get real skill set stuff. I don't want to just fill the gym, with a lot of volleyball athletes just to make the money, and they're not really getting anything out of it. So I capped that at 20. But the all skills camp, even though I pubbed it as all skills, there was a lot of athletes who wanted me to look at them like hands on, eyes only, like we're coming here because we want to play for you. And so that camp ended up, I had to actually cut it off because I initially was going to do 50. And I was like, that's good. We have 2 nets, it's perfect. People are going to get their reps in. But then Madison High School was like, I'm bringing my whole varsity. So I was like, okay. So that was me too. And then there was like 2 girls who were out of state and were like, low key, we already purchased flights. Can you please let us in? So in the time that I opened it up, in 10 minutes to let them apply, like 8 or 9 more girls showed up. And so I was like, okay, we got to cut this off. So it ended up being almost 70 girls in a gym. And it was so wonderful. Like we ran it literally to perfection. There were so many parents that came up to us after and was like, we have never like been to a camp that ran this, this smoothly. I mean, it was like the skill set, the competition was high, super high level. They love the campus. They love the shirts. They love the coaches. And the beautiful thing about it is like my staff is all people of color. And so to run it that way and to have people come on campus and be like, this is ran so professionally and so amazing, that was like a really big thing. And so Coach Pete actually came in the gym and she was almost in tears because she was, seeing this many people on campus in our gym for PV volleyball. It was really like a full circle moment. And so it was super beautiful. So in the future, I'm going to keep my middle school camp. I'm going to do an all skills camp. And then on day 2, I'm going to make it like a prospect camp. And then also men's volleyball or boys volleyball is getting really huge out here in the South. And so I'm actually going to do a boys camp as well. So
that sounds like a plan. That's crazy because I've never even. It's because I'm just around basketball. I hear guys, but I remember, being a senior, junior in high school, going into college. I remember hearing all these dudes like in California that played basketball, but they also played volleyball. And a lot of dudes don't really understand how volleyball, helps translate to the basketball game. So,
yes.
you might be on to something. You can get ahead of this thing and be in charge. Get ahead of this thing. So, hey, you got it. You got it. So all you folks that out there are listening, PV volleyball camp, look out for this June, maybe
July.
July. So July. So cancel your summer vacations, get out there and get the camp, man. Especially if you're in Houston, less than an hour. Just straight down 290. They I think they finally didn't fix that place up. So hopefully 290.
Oh, don't do us. Yeah,
I'm talking about 290. I'm talking about 290.
Yeah, it's 290 is life now. There's so much on the other side of the freeway. When we were going to school, it was 2 lanes, it was dark, it was no lights, but there's so much. There's everything that you want. Everything's like a suburb now out there. So there's plenty of stuff to do, plenty of stuff to stay and eat. So come down 290.
It's going up out there on 290, man. And Coach Reese says, if you ever get the itch, please come to Acres Home and do a camp to help introduce volleyball to the elementary 4th grade level. Yeah, man, a lot of those kids out there, in the hood, Acres Home, they really don't know anything about volleyball. When I was working with her, we was trying to, do some volleyball things. One of the games we played was like with a big old ball, and these kids literally didn't understand the notion of like you got to hit it back over the net. And so it took us a while, man. It took us a while, and then like you said, COVID hit. Was 2020. That was the last year I think I was in education. So.
Just email me. I do camps all the time. I do it for everybody, honestly, all the time in the summer. That is like my summer life is camps. And so I would love that because I always love introducing, especially young Black girls, to the game of volleyball and to HBCU and what it means and why we exist. So just email me.
Absolutely. Coach, there you go. Email her. So let's talk about the season starts on Friday. I think you believe I believe you told me. It starts Friday, 2022 season. I'm looking at it right now. You guys are, preseason picked to finish 4th behind Alabama State, Jackson State, and Florida A&M. Obviously your goals is to win the conference and then win the conference tournament. But, just some personal goals for you, some goals for the team, some of your returners. Can you speak about those? I know you have a second team all-conference setter. I don't want to say her name because I'm going to butcher it.
Yes. Jakarta, but we call her Boogie. We call her Boogie. There you
go. So, just kind of speak about those things and some of the people that you have coming back.
Okay, yeah. So I was actually shocked that they picked us 4th after the season we had last year. But that, that's really just the respect for the product that prior to last year we came with and, put on the floor. But yeah, we have, I think, 4 or 5 seniors, Jakarta, Boogie. Nobody calls her Jakarta. Everybody calls her Boogie. She's been a starting setter for me for 3 years. So she's going into her senior season. She's a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal hard worker, and her leadership is second to none. So she's coming back. And then we have a right side, a starting Libero who's been here also into her senior year, who will be a big part of the season. But after last season, I really hit the ground running with recruiting. And I told myself, I'm not going to have the season I had last year. It's time for us to win a championship, and I got to get the kids in here to do it. And so I pulled from some JUCOs. I brought in she's a middle, but she plays actually anywhere in the front row you need her to. But That's Delaney, and she's from Iowa Western, and they're back-to-back national champions. And she played middle and right side for them. And so I brought her in, and then I brought in a kid out of Arizona from a JUCO that took their JUCO and turned that whole program around, and went far in the playoffs. They call it playoffs there. So I brought her in, and then I have a state champion out of San Antonio, Layla Smalls, who I brought on as well. And then I have a kid out of California, Kylie Owens, which is T.O.'s kid. Most people know that now because he posted about it. But she's a phenomenal athlete, has all her dad's gifts, but she's super good. And her club team won back-to-back national championships as well, junior national championships, I should say. And then I brought some pieces in from Houston and then mixed in with my upperclassmen. We've just really hit the ground running. I have some kids who walked on who could have easily been on scholarship, but they just wanted to play at PV and have been super impactful. I haven't been as posty on social media, with our team because we've really just been in the gym grinding and working. They work super hard. Their work ethic is crazy. And they're super, super talented, super athletic. And I just can't wait to get them all on the floor this weekend. We have 2 starters out though, because our COVID policies are real crazy. So if you're unvaccinated and somebody gets COVID, you automatically go into quarantine, regardless if you have it or not. And so that's one of our starting setters. It's a kid out of the Dallas area. She's from Red Oak, and she's a phenomenal setter. And I got her last minute, and I did not think that we would get her because we didn't have any money. And I was actually at a tournament looking at somebody else. Actually 3 or 4 of my kids were there, and one of her best friends comes up and she's like, "Hey coach," I recruited her. And I was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm watching my friend." And I was like, "Who is it?" Ends up being the setter. And so by the time she came on a visit and we talked, and she's a high academic kid, and I was like, "Look, I have a senior setter. She's leaving after this season. If you could just come for, academic money and you do anything like I've seen right now, like it's yours. Like just come for here." But like she was getting recruited by like Alabama A&M. She had full ride offers from other places, but the connection was there. And I was like, this is the final piece because she runs such a fast offense. And we have another kid out of Dallas, Skyland, who is a phenomenal middle. And so I'm like, we need this kid. And so long story short, she ends up, she ran track and she ended up hitting her foot on a hurdle and had to, like, they said she was going to be out till like September 1. And she was like, I was the only coach was like, I don't care. Come rehab here. It don't matter, And so she ended up committing on no money. And then literally when we wrapped up spring season, one of the setters that I had here was like, I'm going to go in the transfer portal. And it just worked out because she was actually like on some funds. And so I was able to offer her and it just worked out. But she is a force. And so just to put everybody on the floor this season is going to be awesome. And then I have a returning middle who had some knee injuries last year, and she's like completely healthy now. And she was already good then. And so I'm just ready for us to play other people instead of each other, so I can see where we're really at. But despite having 2 starters out, we're quite deep. And so I'm ready. So we kick off at the Lamar tournament on Friday.
Hey, get it rocking and rolling. Get it rocking and rolling. And it's weird, man, because my mom, she coached volleyball in middle school and basketball. Of course, she had 3 boys that played basketball and stuff, so she knows sports. But I didn't know anything about volleyball until I got to college. And so the Libero position, I think I'm saying that correctly, man. It's still a foreign subject or topic to me. Can you explain that? It might be somebody out there
I feel like everybody
me.
always asks me about it, and I think it's just because she's in a different color of jersey, so everybody's like, no, really, like, what does she do? So Libero or Libero, people call it both things. They are back row only. They can never come front row. They can't cross like the 10-foot line. They can't be above the plane of the net type thing, and so they only stay in the back row, and they typically come in. And it doesn't count as a sub. So they can go back in and out back row for anybody. And typically the separation is that they're a little bit better defensively and passing than the rest of the defense. And so that's why they're in a different color jersey.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense, man. So it makes sense. I always kind of wanted to know, but like even when I was at SFA, like we hung around the volleyball girls all the time, but I never asked like what the hell is
We
Oh,
get it asked all the
what?
time, and like they're like, yeah, this is what it is. She'll be in different color jerseys, but everybody knows. Like, look, I don't know a lot about volleyball, but I know there's somebody that wears a different color jersey.
Exactly, man. So shout out. Speaking of mom was in the building. She said, "Awesome interview, awesome coach.
Oh,
Good
thank
luck this season."
you.
Mom always gonna show up. She's always gonna show up, man.
As she
She's
should. I love that.
yeah, she always gonna show up. You kind of mentioned uh, practice, and you're tired of playing each other. There are some folks who really don't understand. Like volleyball season really starts basically as soon as school starts. So you guys have probably been at it for a couple of weeks now, maybe a month or so. The parents who don't understand what it's like to be a collegiate volleyball player at the Division I level, even at any level, honestly, JUCO level, some of the best dudes I've ever played in my life. Their situation might be grades or couldn't get away or whatever it may be. But being a collegiate athlete is very, very difficult. So for the parents that are listening, can you kind of explain you guys, schedule? You might help with the kids choosing their major, scheduling around practice, being on time. All these things play a part. So kind of, speak on that from your perspective, going from player to coach.
Well, really, it's a full-time job, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And I think that is sometimes lost on parents and athletes
Yep.
to realize how much time and sacrifice that you spend on, the sport that you say you love. And I think a lot of times people realize they don't love it as much as they do when they get to college. And so, like I said, when I go and I talk to a lot of high school athletes and we have these recruiting talks, I say this all the time. I'm like, you need to make sure that you're doing this one for you and that it's something that you really love to do, because who wants to wake up and do weights and then practice some more and then go to study hall and then go to class and then travel and do weights and do all this stuff. And who wants to do it for something that you really don't love to do? And I think that's why people always say it's hard to go 4 years, because you find out the grind, you're not in love with the grind as you thought that you were, right? And it's so demanding mentally, physically, and like in camp. So for us, volleyball really starts in the summer. So we send the summer workout. We had a lot of our freshmen come down because PV has this program called Summer Bridge, and it allows freshmen to come in and take 6 hours. And then you get acclimated, and then you get to work out with our strength and conditioning coach and things like that. But the entire squad is in here. So it's checking, making sure everybody's doing what they need to do over the summer. And so we check in, about as a group about 2 weeks before school starts. And so there's no class. So it's unlimited, right? And what we can do. And so we typically structure it where you're waking up at 6 a.m. and you're doing strength and conditioning. Then around 9, 10 o'clock, we're going to do skill specific positional work for like an hour and a half. And then you get a break, and then you're going to come back, and then we're going to do some team stuff and get that together. And that's every day. Every day we're doing it. And so the difference is you don't get to go home and your parent gets to fix a meal for you, and you get to talk about it and whine about it and complain, and they get to, patch you up, and you go to bed and wake up. You go to your dorm or you go to your apartment, and maybe you talk about it with your teammates, or maybe you're too exhausted to even do that. And then your alarm goes off and you wake up and you're doing it all over again. And then campus can be hard, right? Because however you thought that you worked out over the summer, it's not enough. It's not enough for what your body is about to go through. Like when you, in the time that you're getting a break, you want to sleep, but you can't because you got to go to treatment because your body hurts so bad, right? Or a coach is running the crap out of us because we need to get in shape, right? Or she's testing us with these drills and I'm mentally exhausted. And why did I choose to play collegiate ball, right? And all that, and you're questioning like your existence. And so camp is supposed to be hard, but it's supposed to get you ready. And so it is very exhausting on all fronts. And you really find out, and I think some kids know really early that they don't really want to do it, but they're sticking it out for their parents or because they're on scholarship. And, I don't want to end up having to pay for school, but coaches know, right? We know. And on this level, scholarships are renewed annually. So if you're not doing what you need to be doing, you may not be on money anyway. And so I always say, if this is not something that you love, this is not what you need to be doing. And for me personally, as a coach, if your work ethic is trash, don't come play for me. because the standard is that you work, period, whatever your 100 is. And if I have to force that out of you, you will hate it here. And I have no problem either helping you leave or, letting you arrive to the decision that you should leave. And most of the time, because it's Prairie View, a lot of athletes just honestly they stop, or if I cut them, then they actually stay at PV and just graduate and become regular student athletes. And later on, when we have conversations, they're like, "Yeah, you were right this whole time." Yes, I know. It's just hard. But if you love it, you fall in love with the process, right? Because if you want to win as much as I want to win, and we're on the same page, and the whole team's on the same page with that, then it becomes a good year. But when people aren't on the same page with that, it can be very trying. And so I think parents could help that in the sense with the motivational side of it. Excuse me, because we're on them enough. We're telling them every day that, no, you're not doing this right. You need to do this better all the time. And that can be taxing on someone because probably in high school, they weren't getting told that a lot, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to play our way in order to be successful. And so I think if parents come in, instead of like bashing the coach or bashing the team or boosting their ego up, hey, just stick it in. If you still love it, just work hard and, maybe it'll work out. And I think sometimes I have to tell athletes, even if you work amazingly and your work ethic is crazy, it still doesn't mean that you're going to play. It still doesn't mean you're going to travel, right? It still doesn't mean that you're going to raise from 4th on the depth chart to number 1, right? So that's where the mental exhaustion comes in. Like, I'm doing everything everybody else is doing, but I'm still not quite there. But it's still important because as good as team from 1 to 20 is, the better we are. Because if we can mimic what we're going to see when we play these other schools, the better we're going to be. But it is very taxing. And it's something that you really got to love to do. And I run a tight ship, so we don't miss study hall. We don't miss class. Like we're running for that type of stuff. And so they know like, oh, Coach Tacho don't play.
Yeah. And again, you've seen my posts on Facebook, and I'm always trying to give.
Oh, you're always trying to tell parents, but I don't know. They don't.
Parents, man, they don't listen, man. And and I've said this many, many times. To be a collegiate coach, you have to be one of the craziest people in the world because your livelihood, your money depends on you being able to get 18 to 21, 22-year-old kids to buy in and be successful. If you don't win, ironically, I got on this shirt.
Yes.
Winners win, man. So all the things you just said is spot on. I remember being at SFA during Christmas break, and you kind of tied it into where, being in volleyball 2-3 weeks before school even starts. If you're on the volleyball team, you're already at school. There's nobody else on campus for the most part, not the majority. There's no parties going on. I remember
nothing. It's just volleyball.
Yes. And so I remember being at SFA, and our motto was during Christmas break, it's just us and the girls basketball team. And we're walking to practice. It's cold as I don't know what. And I remember my motto used to be like, this is the life we chose. And I still try to tie that into kids today. When you go to play college sports, this is the life you chose. You didn't choose to be a regular student. If that was the case, you just, enrolled in class. If you're going to be a collegiate athlete, this is the life you chose. So you better buckle down and get to it. So all the things you just spoke about, it's real, folks. All you parents is out there, all you kids is out there. It's very, very real, man. Full-time job. Man, Cliff says it all the time. There's you be like, damn, man, I want to go to this party tonight. But now, man, we got study hall, or we got curfew. Curfew was the craziest thing to me. I'm like, man, I ain't never had a curfew.
It is crazy. It is crazy. But the funny part is I always think about like, I feel like back when we played and stuff like that, I feel like we could balance it more, right? But I feel like kids these days, they can't balance that. Like, go to bed. You cannot even stay up late and come to practice. Yes. Like it's all over your face. You can't even take it. Right. But I feel like when we played back when, me and Cliff was playing and things like that, it's like we can balance both of it. Now these athletes cannot do that. And I'm like, every other day I feel like I'm having conversations about don't forget why you're here. Why you are here. You are here first and foremost to be a student athlete. So your grades and all that. And then volleyball, everything else is secondary, period. And if you're not willing to sacrifice for that, because I'm trying to win a championship. So if you're not willing to sacrifice the outside forces and what you got going on, it's going to show every single time because I've been there before. I'm still kind of young. I still know how it goes down. And so I think I'm always pouring into them and letting them know that, like, it's not worth it. Like, if you could sacrifice for 3 months, then we can reach what we want to do,
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like we're always talking about that type of stuff all the time. All the time. Because this is what you chose, right? You told me when you sent me that email,
Yes.
you said, I love this game. I am the hardest worker ever. I don't care how you coach. I just want to play for you. I want to win. I work amazingly hard. And then you get here and I'm like, hello, my email.
But you told me this is what
Yes, and sometimes I'll pull them up and I'll be like, "You remember this email you sent me? What happened to this kid?"
got them receipts, man. Folks will be
Every
knowing that.
time,
Got them
every time.
receipts.
Keep your
Got them
receipts.
receipts. Tim Smith says facts. Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. I'm old, man. Like I'm pushing 40. Like,
Same,
but I would
same.
still remember college basketball is still the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done some, like, stepping out on YouTube was pretty hard, but it's still not, compared to nothing that I did then. And you spoke about we were able to balance things a little better back then. And I've talked to my college teammates and stuff. Like, I remember Christmas break, again, tie this back. We made a movie. We were so bored during Christmas break. We made a movie, and we didn't have the technology,
Oh, technology.
and the YouTube and stuff like that. The camera phones was garbage. But we made a movie, and so now I'm gonna tie this back to what I was trying to bring up. There is so many distractions for these kids to get to sleep.
Yeah.
And with TikTok, Twitter, and all these things. So, how do you deal, and you and your staff deal with, social media, as far as like what to put on social media? Like, you spending too much time on social media, like, don't hit send, don't retweet this, or whatever it may be. So kind of speak on that, the social media aspect of, at PV.
Well, first I try when I'm recruiting, I kind of drop that little nugget like, hey, if you're trying to be a part of a brand, you have to remember that once you send it, it's out. Obviously, I'm very vocal on social media. I get in trouble all the time because I speak my mind. I say what I want to say, type thing, right? But I'm always willing to deal with the consequences. But athletes, they have to try to get them to understand that you can make whatever choice you want, but know that you always have to deal with the consequences. And so I try to get them in the recruiting process. My assistant, Will, he is like FBI investigator. So he will find it all, right? And then I try to tell them, once you put it out there, it's out. And then when they get here, I'm like, I know y'all have your social media. They love to TikTok. They are the most TikToking people ever. But and I'm like, I like for y'all to have fun. I want you to capture, your collegiate experience, but you have to also remember that you're a reflection of PV volleyball. And so no matter what you do, you're going to always be associated with PV volleyball. And everything is not meant to be shared or ranted about and things like that. Because I think a lot of times, I think more my issue is that when stuff happens or things that you're discontent with, instead of actually talking to maybe me or somebody on our staff or administration, the first thing is let's run a social media. Well, first of all social media is going to do is try to cancel a person without any context for anything that's going on. And then your problem is not even going to get solved. So I try to preach to, it's an open door policy. Come talk to me first. Let's see how we can handle stuff before you just out there ranting on social media and then it's half truths and whole lies anyway. And then, you're just a brand, you represent PV. Everybody's going to say when they see you, it's, oh, that's a PV volleyball girl, no matter what you're doing, good, bad, and different. And so I just kind of try to keep, that reminder. And future recruits, when I do my recruiting talks and stuff, I say that all the time. Once it's out, it's out. All it takes is 0.02 nanoseconds for it to be screenshot, and then it's viral. And so you just got to be very careful about what you put out. I don't like to say that you can't be who you really are, because eventually that's going to show up anyway. But just be mindful about how you introduce that to the world. So yeah, that's how I do it there.
Yeah, man. Social media is, Herman Edwards just got famous, said don't hit send, and a lot of kids.
You got to be real careful. And there's like this the cancel culture, that's out, and so it's kind of funny in a sense because I've dealt with my own stuff like that. But I'm like, if you don't know the facts, you just gotta stop talking about stuff. That's us as a community, as a people. It's like people just hop on with no context And it's like, you don't even really know what's really going on. You don't know the truth. You don't know anything. You're just, hopping on. And then sometimes too, like depending on what you put out, there's like bullying and things like that happen on social media. And so we have to be very careful about that. And so it's, kind of checking on the mental too of athletes as well, and trying to say, hey, sometimes social media can really screw with your mental, because of just what people who sit behind a computer and just use their little Twitter fingers saying whatever. And sometimes that can screw with people. Like I've had season where it was terrible. It was a terrible season. It was losing and all that. And you had alumni saying whatever they wanted to say, right? But when we're winning, it's crickets. And so I don't even, I try not to I don't give energy to that, but I tell my team the same thing. If we're going through a rough patch, or even if we're winning, losing, or whatever, it's the people right here in this gym that really care about what's going on. And so that's got to be your focus, and not what people are saying, because I feel like most people, they'll hop on and say anything negative real quick, but when the positive is going, not much to be said. So, you come at it both ways.
always, man. Negative news is always going to spread faster
Every
than
time. Yeah.
positive news. And it is crazy, man, that especially in the Black community, man, we will post the craziest stuff, but when you got folks trying to do camps, you got folks trying to, build up a basketball court or whatever it may
No
be.
retweets, no shares,
like
no
nothing, man. Like it's crazy. Some of my, parent posts and stuff like that. People will they'll text me like, "Oh man, I love this," and I'm like, "Dude, well, just share it." Like, dude, I'm not doing this for a personal gain. Like, I've been through this. Now I've been taught about my elders, my father, my mother. Give back any way you can, and my giving back is sports knowledge. Like so. Like, this is what I'm doing. Just reshare it, man. That's fine. But don't text me like, "Hey man, I love what you're doing." Like, that does nothing. It does nothing, because there might be some kid, some parent who don't know what's going on, and they might have been looking for it for that day, for that specific day. And but people are crazy, man. And I've learned.
And there's a lot of parents that don't know. I found that out. Oh my gosh, doing camps and having recruiting talks, and realizing that although they're with AAU or they're with club and they're paying all this money, they lack a lot of knowledge about even the process to get recruited. And I'm like, how are you having recruiting coordinators? How are you paying all this money? They're not telling you about the eligibility center. They're not telling you about SAT and ACTs. They're not telling you about applying early. What are you paying all this money for if you're paying it so that you can get to the collegiate level? They have to prepare you for that. And so we have so many parents that don't know, because a lot of times they let the coaches take the helm, or the recruiting coordinators and all this stuff. And then I get to a camp and I'm like, how many people play club? Everybody raise their hand. I'm like, how many people know about the eligibility center? It's like 2 people. And I'm like, you realize you can't play level D1, 2, especially in D2, if you don't, get registered with the eligibility center. But there's so many parents that don't know how it goes and stuff like that. And so I always try to get these talks. And so I love that you put stuff out there, because I tweet stuff too. I can only do so much,
Yeah.
I'm still wearing this. But the day that I no longer coach, y'all getting a book.
Put it out there. Put it out there, because people need to know, man. And it's crazy, because there's so much. We have this thing called internet, people. There's so much information out there. You can easily just type it in, but people still won't do it, man. And I'm gonna bring it to this. I got a couple more questions, and we're gonna close it down. So, and you just spoke about the day that you don't coach. So what are your? I know you get ready to go into the season. It starts Friday.
It starts Friday. Yes.
You might have to put this on the back burner. You might be able to bring it out. What are your full-time goals? How long do you see yourself coaching? Do you see yourself coaching anywhere else? I'm gonna say no. But if the right school might call, you never know. But just your future plans within the next 5 to 8 years. I hate that question, because folks be all like, "Well, what do you see yourself doing?" I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm living a life, man. I don't know, having a beer somewhere. Like, but go ahead.
Happy to wake up every day. No.
Yeah.
So, well, first and foremost, I would never coach at a PWI. I am very, very strong in my beliefs about especially Black athletes, high caliber ones too, going to HBCUs and pouring back into HBCUs. And I think if more knew the history of why we even exist, and how even our Black talent got to PWIs, I think more and more athletes will come to HBCUs. I think that unfortunately it took something like George Floyd right in our face like that for some of the athletes that are now coming to HBCUs to come to us. And straight out of high school, not just like I'm going to transfer down because I made the wrong decision or whatever, but just really looking into and wanting to pour back into HBCUs. Obviously, what Dion is doing at Jackson State, whether Jackson State was his first choice, not, when he got here, he hit the ground running, and like it's helped HBCUs in general, in every sport, not just football. And really show that if you pour into whatever you want to pour into, you can get what you want out of it. And so I would never coach at a PWI. I'm very adamant about that. But I do want to win a championship or two as a head coach. I think doing it as a player was great. Me and my teammates did something incredible. I have obviously had an incredible individual career as well. Hence why Tim is saying Hall of Famers, because I've been in the Hall of Fame twice. But doing it as a coach would mean so much more to me, especially since we're underfunded. Everybody in our conference, except for 2 schools, get 12 scholarships, and we're at like 7. And so even competing with that has been great, but I really want to do it and win some championships. I would say 5 years, maybe. I think I would be done. I'm currently pursuing my MBA at PV. I have 2 more semesters left. Well, 2, including this one. And I really want to get into administration. I want to be a senior women's administrator because you can only do so much as a coach. And I think I want to increase the student athlete welfare and experience at HBCUs. I would love to start at PV first, and then maybe migrate to a couple of other HBCUs. But I really want to get to the NCAA because that's where real change needs to happen. It honestly needs to be blown up and restructured. And
Absolutely.
I did a conference this summer called We Coach, and it was amazing. And they really poured into us, but it was a lot of women, women of color, or women in general, who are ADs at Power Fives, who are at the NCAA on like these big time committees, diversity and inclusion committees, and all of this. And we got to meet them one-on-one and exchange information and things like that. And so there's a pipeline definitely for me and for women of color from coaching going up into administration. And so I think I want to do that, or no, I know I want to do that after about 5 more years of coaching. And I want to do that for about 5 years. And then eventually I want to retire as an event planner. Because I can put on some events.
I've been to a couple, man. We used to have some
good times.
45, 40. We'll leave that out the chat, man. But,
yeah. But that's
always
retirement
good.
goal. But after doing that convention, I was actually wanting to like not coach anymore, honestly, before I went to that convention, because it's very taxing, it's very draining, and not from the coaching standpoint, but really just taking care of 20 kids mental year after year, and then trying also to coach and finding different ways to reach them. And so I learned a lot at the convention, and they really poured into me. And I said, okay, there's more work to be done. And so, your college athletics, you're also like a part-time counselor, right? Because of so much that's going on and so much mentally with these athletes. And so I say it's really like coaching through a landmine, right? It's very hard because it's like, you don't want that day that you're on a kid and you're riding them that day be the day that they choose to, either end their life or try to, or different things like that. And so it was very taxing, very hard. But after that convention, I said, okay, more work to be done. And so the ultimate goal obviously is to win at my alma mater a couple of times, and then ride off into the sunset and then go blow some stuff up as an admin.
There you go. Nothing wrong with having, life goals. And of course, every coach coaches to win a championship. You're coaching just to be out there, like you're in the way for somebody who really wants to, mold young men, young women, and win a championship. Like that's competition is a part of sports, and then there are a lot of folks out there in the world trying to take it out, which is
it's crazy. Everybody's a winner. Participation.
You have to compete. You have to earn the spot. You have to do all these things, man. Again, going back to everybody that's on a collegiate level team was somebody at their school, district, state. It happens, man. So nobody's, and I was, people like, man, it's not fair, man. You know, fair is something where they judge pigs, like, you know, the state fair. That's what they do. That's what fair is, man. Like I can look back at my life a lot of times, like it was a lot of things that wasn't fair, but it is what it is. You have to pull your pants up and get to work. But yeah, that's a great goal to have within the next 5 or so years. Hopefully, you get it done. I don't know if you guys play out here anytime, but if y'all do, let me know.
We're at how close are you to Arlington?
40 minutes. Man,
okay, good. We have a tournament out there actually at UTA. So
okay, I need to holler at the UTA people. Hopefully, they I'm trying to get my media stuff done. They let me on the sidelines.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Do that.
Yeah, if that, man, I'll just be in the crowd. But
let me know. I can put you on the list.
Okay, cool. And so we're gonna end it right here. There's the talk. HBCU homecomings is a thing everybody wants to talk about. Everybody, everybody shows up to that game, football game, this and that. Jackson State is talking they crap. They have the best homecoming. Howard say they had the best homecoming. TSU, they need some work. I've been to TSU homecoming. It's not bad, but it's just because because the city is just so, it's in the middle of a big city.
I don't think that's it. I think if
I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
TSU was, the whole entire downtown would be shut down. You wouldn't be able to drive anywhere.
I think
it was where TSU was.
I'm trying to give them benefit of the doubt.
Don't.
So I'm saying all that, and I've been to PV homecoming a couple of times. I haven't been in probably more than a decade, but
it's different now.
Just go ahead and speak about, Prairie View A&M, Prairie View A&M homecoming. What makes it so different from anything else in the country?
So for me, what I feel like is that we don't need help. We're not in a major city. We're not in the middle of a city. We're not by anything. So the people there are creating the atmosphere and they're creating the fun. We don't need bars. We don't need, celebrities to show up. We don't need any of that for it to be lit. It is what it is because that's how we made it. And I think prior to, our new stadium, prior to social media, prior to 290 being more than just a 2-lane road, we had to go all the way to 1960 to have fun, right? Outside of campus. And so who's driving out there? Who's wasting that gas? Who's driving back where it's like a 2-lane dark road, right? And after having a good time. And so we created the fun on campus, and like our student association and all them, like they created all of the stuff there. And so that I feel like is what we get when we have homecoming. Like DJ Rogers, what they're doing every year when they come out there and put on the show that they put on is amazing. But like during the day, it's always something going on. So like on the Hobart Taylor side, you have all the old people who are doing their thing and getting their thing, their groove. And then you come, to where the tents are and all this stuff in the RVs. And it's like a whole different party, a whole different atmosphere. And like Tim said, it's homegrown and we don't need any help. It's the people that create it. It's the alumni that come in and create that atmosphere every year. And that's why I feel like ours is a cut above the rest, because you don't see celebrity, or if they are, they're real low key about it. But Howard, it's the celebrities that make it. Oh, this celebrity showed up. We don't care. We only care about seeing the people we went to school with, hanging out with them, catching up, fellowshipping, and that's what it is. And so I love that TSU homecoming is on our homecoming weekend, so they can stay on 45 and hang out over there so that we can have our own homecoming. But it's a reason why people travel up and down 290 during our homecoming, because it is an experience. It always has been. It gets better and better. So yeah, that is homecoming to the land.
TV homecoming is something. So for all you folks out there who
and we haven't had it in 2 years, so this year is about to be,
it's gonna be stupid.
A movie.
Traffic might be all the way back to Hockley or something.
No, really, you better get there early. Find some back roads. I know a few back roads. I know how to get you come anywhere between like 11, 12, and 3 o'clock. You're gonna be.
You ain't getting on campus, man.
You ain't getting on campus.
oh my goodness, I know that's gonna be stupid. So all you folks that's out there in this country who haven't experienced, you do a thing where you travel to almost every HBCU homecoming. You haven't been to PV. You might want to go check it out. It's gonna
You
be
definitely
some.
should check it out. That's my goal after I'm done coaching. I do want to hit some of these other homecomings that I haven't hit before. Like I've been to Grambling, stuff like that, which Grambling does it. They do like all week, thing. Ours is just like Saturday, right? Saturday is like the day.
Saturday, just stupid.
Yeah, so definitely I want to do that and go to different HBCU homecomings for sure. That'd be dope.
There you go. Well, there it is, folks. We had Coach Tacho Tyler with Prairie View A&M volleyball coach. It's been great. Just hit the hour mark, which is crazy. I didn't think we were going to get there that long.
Liz says the same thing when I'm on there. He's like, man, it always goes longer than
Yeah,
I just like I go with the vibe.
Yeah, it just it is what it is. I don't never try to gauge it or try to say I'm just gonna go 30 minutes, 20 minutes because people attention spans are short.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a great interview. A lot of knowledge been dropped. Hopefully we can do it again when the season slow down right after the season, maybe so. But if you got any closing remarks, I really do appreciate you coming on. Any closing remarks, you can go ahead and rock out with that.
Well, one, I appreciate you having me. I know we've been trying to get it together. Yeah. And it's so funny because you always post like, oh, do y'all know any coaches? And I'm like,
I know it.
Okay. So thank you for having me. I love putting PV out there, PV volleyball. We do start, so our schedule is online. So if y'all ever want to come, our home games are free. So if you want to make it down to 90 and come support our team, that is awesome. If you ever want to give to our program, that would be awesome too, because we are definitely underfunded. You can find the link on any of my social medias in the links in the profile. But I appreciate it. I'm so excited for this season. Me and my staff really recruited our butts off. And so we're excited to put the product on the floor. I'm excited for the 92 team coming and celebrating their 30 years and then just continuing this tradition. And hopefully this year is the year that I can bring a championship back. And then I get to come back on the show and share it with you.
Hopefully. There we go. That'll be perfect, man. Shout out to Tim, man. Yeah, let me know, man. I like doing this kind of stuff, man. People need to know this information. So as we get ready to shut it down, I always leave y'all with some, good notes, man, on your best day. Try to be better, kind of makes sense a little bit, but we out. Peace.